making biscuits as requested by Bryan. No one else requests videos, so I'm just doing what he suggested on Facebook, and we're gonna go from there. He said his biscuits don't end up like fluffy and like yummy, so we're gonna try and fix that. I don't have a recipe that I like to use for biscuits because I like rolls better, but I found one in one of the 12 cookbooks I've never used before that I have sitting back there, and we're just gonna try it. And Jack, you need to get out of the way. Go away. Kitties like to cook with me. Obviously we've got Legolas. He's wearing my apron because, you know, he needs one. And Bean obviously wants to make friends with him. So this cookbook that we're gonna be using is called Step by Step Cookbook. Step by Step is kind of self-explanatory. Never used it, but we'll see what's going on with it. It seems like a pretty easy recipe, so we should be good. So we're actually going to split the recipe into 3 different flavors, just because, again, I don't like biscuits, so I'm going to add some flavor to them, see, you know, if they're tasty. So we're going to just do some regular buttermilk and then split that off. So we're going to have regular ones, some savory ones, and some sweet ones, because, you know. So to start off, we're just going to show you the basic recipe. So it's 2 cups of flour. This one says to use Southern soft wheat flour. I don't have that. I wasn't gonna go buy special flour just for the purpose of making biscuits. But, you know, use whatever. If you're gluten-free, use gluten-free flour, it's fine. I don't level my flour like super well, so that's probably why sometimes my stuff doesn't turn out. But I'm not about that. I'm just like, you know, you gotta cook and just cook instead of, oh, well, this is 1 3/4, you know, level, like too much. Ain't nobody got time. So, 2 cups of flour in, and you want some shortening. I'm just using vegetable shortening. You can use butter flavor if you want. I thought about it, but I wasn't sure, so I'm just gonna go with this to see if it makes a difference. The butter flavor obviously just adds the butter flavor. It's in the name. It says to preheat your oven to 450, which is doing so since that takes forever because that's hot. Wants you to mix all your dry ingredients together. So we're gonna add some baking powder and baking soda. Those are both rising and leavening and stuff agents, so it'll make it fluffy or not. So that's cool that we're doing both. So it says 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I've got my handy dandy spoons. The problem with collecting measuring spoons, as I've been doing on accident, is that you have too many to choose from when you're baking. So I just grabbed these ones because I don't want to use the cute ones. Okay, so 1 1/2 teaspoons. You do want to like make sure that this is level, and you can use this little guy. Just, otherwise it might jake stuff up. So baking powder. Bean, how's your hairball going? 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. She just costs a lot because she's fat. It's not my fault. Baking soda. Okay, and then you need some salt. The oven's ready. I pour my salt over the sink just to make sure it's not too salty. If I was to pour it over the bowl and it like spills over or something. I'm gonna stir it all together. Cool. And then it says, add the shortening until it resembles coarse crumbles. So it wants, what, I can't even read, 1/4 cup of shortening. So here's my shortening. I like to use a spoon, scoop it out, and stick it in the measuring cup instead of trying to make a mess and be ridiculous. So just scoop it, put it in there. 1/4 cup isn't very much, so it won't take very many scoops. And then you just loosely shove it in there, make sure it's close. I like eyeball baking. Sometimes if I'm making something intense, I'll measure it more specifically, but it just kind of depends on what you're doing and what your preference is. So I'm gonna add another little scoop just for funsies. And then you just cut it in. I don't have my pastry blender, which is what you use to make pastries. So I'm gonna use my fork, which is probably fine because some of you probably don't have pastry blenders and you wouldn't know how to cut in the shortening. So you just kind of mush it around, make sure it gets all incorporated. You can use your hands if you want. I probably will in a second. But you just want to make it look all crumbly like. So blending it in. And this recipe only makes 13 biscuits, which is fine because, like, I mean, I'm splitting it up anyway. So you're welcome to double it or add more or less, or, you know, whatever. But I feel like these biscuits will go by pretty fast since Mr. Parker likes them. Cool. So that's loose crumbles. You don't need to be like ridiculous with it, as long as it's incorporated in there and not just a big blob of shortening, you're fine. And then add the buttermilk and stir just until moistened. So the just until moistened is so that the gluten doesn't overdevelop and make flat, hard, no fun biscuits. So the less you stir it, the better. Even if it doesn't look combined, it'll be fine because you have to knead it later anyway. So don't add too much liquid. It calls for buttermilk. Didn't have buttermilk, didn't want to buy buttermilk. So I just made buttermilk. What you can do is you get the cup of milk and you add a tablespoon of lemon juice or a tablespoon of vinegar, white vinegar. And that'll make it, you know, buttermilk. Because buttermilk is basically just sour milk. And you want to pour it in there, and the acid will curdle the milk a little bit and make it buttermilky, obviously. So that's a fun little tip for you. And you want to stir it up, but not over stir it. I have a problem with over stirring just because I like to stir. But you want to stir it until just about all of it is in there. So this is about what you want it at. See, it's not all the way combined. I don't know if you can even see it. So it's not all the way combined, but it's good. So we're going to put lids back on stuff. Let's throw some of these guys to the corner. And you want a floured surface. I took off my rings because I don't want to get them dirty. And then we're just going to sprinkle the counter with a little bit of flour. I guess I should probably get my rolling pin out. What glass you're going to need to move, buddy? Cool. And you want to make sure you flour your rolling pin too. So just, you know, make sure it's got some flowers on it or your stuff will stick. So you just want to flour everything, and then you can dump this guy onto your floured surface, since we're just going to be kneading it together into a ball, making it all one cohesive unit. Okay, so that's all out. You want to clean off your fork, obviously. And then you just, I don't know if you can see me doing this, but I just like to pinch it together and kind of combine it first and then get into the kneading. Sorry for the sniffles also. Everybody's been getting sick at work, so I think I got something. But it's just a sniffle. So again, you don't want to overdevelop your gluten because then you'll have not fluffy biscuits. So this is just about done, and I've only kneaded it a few times. Once it's all combined and fancy like, it'll look something like this in your little ball. Roll it out into about 3/4 of an inch thick. I don't measure it. I'm not going to have some kind of baking measuring stick to do that. That's weird. So we'll just put a little bit more flour on there and stick them on there. Well, actually, no, just kidding. I lied. We're going to split it up first. So I'm making 3 different kinds. So I'm going to split the dough up into thirds. And I got their own bowls for them. So this can be the sweet one. We're going to do a cinnamon raisin. That one's not evenly distributed, is it? This one can be just the regular buttermilk, and he can get his own bowl. We'll put him back in here. And then this little guy is going to be the savory. I'm going to do like a cilantro chili, like chili, cumin kind of Mexican-y flavors. And so we'll go to that point. I'll add the flavors and then I'll show you how to roll them out. I made a mistake. So what I should have done is separated all the ingredients into 3 different bowls, mixed them all that way, and added the ingredients then, instead of trying to knead it into the flour or into the dough already, because now they might end up not super fluffy. Like they have the flavor in them, but I did it too late. So here's the cumin chili powder one. I ended up not putting the cilantro in it, but it should still be tasty. Here's just the regular one. This one will be fine because I haven't played with it. And then here's the cinnamon raisin one. I added a little bit of vanilla just to make it a little bit more sweet. But we'll roll this one out first. I've still got some raisins in the bowl, but that's okay. So what you want to do is, again, you've got your floured surface. I'm going to pat a little bit more on there just for funsies. Make sure, again, your little guy is all floured and such. And then you just roll it out. Pretty low key. Move that bowl. And then you can roll it for a second and then rotate it so that it all gets evenly rolled. It's probably fine however you want to do it. That's just what I do. Make sure it's all even. And I'm looking forward to these ones the most, I think, just because cinnamon is delicious and raisins will add a fun texture while you're eating it. Okay. And you don't want it super thick, but you don't want it super thin either. You want to give them enough stuff to rise. Plus, I'm only making a couple of each flavor anyway. I have a cookie cutter that I could use, but I'm going to use this cup instead because this is about the size I want it. You know, I don't like ginormous biscuits if I was going to eat one. And so you want to make sure this guy is floured. So I'm going to make a little pile and roll him in it like you're doing margarita rims. Just make sure it's okay. And then I've got my pan over here, already all greased up and ready to go. We're just going to stack everything on top of each other and do dishes later. And you just push down hard and twist it so it comes out. Stick them on your pan. It's not going to spread out ridiculous like a cookie would, or you know, whatever else you're making, just because it's bread, so it's going to rise up and not sideways. It'll get a little bit bigger sideways, but not enough that it's an issue. So you just, I can tell these ones aren't going to turn out because of the gluten development, but whatevs. And then you just stick them on the pan. I do usually 3 across when I make most things, so you should be fine with that. And then what you can do is you mush it back together, make a ball, and roll it back out and keep cutting those out. So I'm just going to do the same thing with all the other flavors and get them in the oven. It says they bake for about 12 to 14 minutes. So I will see you in about 12 to 14 minutes. Alright, so here's the finished product. They're on their cooling rack, and I can't like super show you because they're going to slide off. But they turned out kind of like British tea biscuits, not like biscuits like from the South. But that's okay, they're still going to be good. I think it's because they're a little bit smaller than normal size biscuits, and because I overdeveloped the gluten because I needed them too much. But here's the raisin cinnamon guy. Smells pretty good. I'm excited for this one. This is the regular, just buttermilk biscuit. It's not, it's like an English tea biscuit. It's fine. And then here's the cumin chili powder one. These ones got a little bit toastier on the bottom just because they were on the bottom rack. And they also didn't cook for the 12 minutes. My oven for some reason gets really, really hot. So instead of cooking for the 12, they cooked for 8. But again, it's because they're smaller and because my oven gets hot. So depending on your oven, depending on how big you want to do them, kind of depends on how long they'll cook. So just keep an eye on them. After they've been in for about 6 or 7 minutes, I always check on them anyway, just because I like to watch the progress. So that's a good time to check to see if you need to turn the oven down or maybe take them out sooner or whatever. Or if you're doing in batches, maybe do your next batch bigger. But I hope you enjoyed your biscuit vlog, and I will post the recipe in the comments. Bye!